Hi, I'm Jennet Ingle, the happiest musician. If you're watching this on YouTube, would you go ahead and click subscribe for me so that you always know when I drop a new episode and so that it's easier for other people to find my channel and to become themselves happier musicians? Thank you. I actually get asked fairly often, do I need a website if I'm a freelance musician, if I'm just an orchestral musician, if I'm just teaching lessons, do I need a website? Maybe 10, maybe 15 years ago, I did a little performance, and it was an oboe and double bass duo that I was playing with a friend of mine. I had done it on a recital of mine before, and we took it to a double bass day performance down in central Indiana, like quite far from where I actually live, 3.5 hours away, and in the opposite direction from Chicago, which is where a lot of my other work is, where a lot of my visibility is. So, in other words, I left my house. I drove 3.5, 4 hours in the opposite direction from everything else I do in order to play a 10-minute oboe and double bass duo for a room full of double bass players. And this did not feel like a career building activity. This is just something that I was doing as a favor to this friend. I like playing with him. We had done this performance on a few oboe days. So it felt completely appropriate that I do that. This conversation is not me complaining about that gig. What I am saying is I did not imagine that anything interesting would come from that. But after we finished the concert, to a quite small room full of people, a former student of mine met me in the lobby afterwards with his roommate and said, "Hey, I saw on your website that you were going to be here, and so I was so happy to come out and hear your performance." And the roommate, who was also an oboist, who I had never met before, like, we shook hands together. Later, I got some read orders from that person. And here's the thing. If I had not updated my website with this one little random performance that I expected no particular value to come from, my student wouldn't have stumbled into it and realized that it was a thing that he could do. It wouldn't have brought the other person. Like, no oboist is going to leave their dorm room and come out to a double bass concert, I don't think, unless they happen to know by having an in that an oboist was going to be there. What is my point? The fact that I had a website, that I had kept it relatively up to date so that it was in fact announcing a performance that I was doing, led me to having a new client, a new read customer, in a way that was very concrete and almost certainly wouldn't have happened any other way. And that is why, even though I am grumpy about it, I am sitting down and actually updating my website today with performances coming up for me in this next academic year. Okay, why should a performing musician have a professional website? It's not as though we get hired off of our websites. It's not as though any personnel manager looking for an oboist is going to Google oboists and look for who's got the shiniest website with the most impressive hero image on the front. But here's what they might do. I had a personnel manager in my orchestra a few years back who was also an oboist in his other life. And like most orchestras, we have a short list of subs who play with us often. And then we have a quite long list of other oboists that we could call in a pinch. And the people who are at the top of the list, the people who we call all the time, are the people that we call all the time because they're great. We like their work. They show up when they say they will. They are reliable in all of the ways that are important for freelancers to be reliable. And they're great players, and we like them. But there are certain busy times of the year, October, December, March, April, when musicians are working. A lot of musicians are working. A lot of orchestras have events that overlap or conflict with each other. And the same pool of high level musicians often serves multiple different communities with their orchestras. And so it certainly happens from time to time that we uh, are unable to find one of our regular subs and we need a new name. And when we need a new name, we have a pretty long list of people that like I've met, people who have sent their resumes into the orchestra, people who have been recommended by other people, by some of our good subs. But not every name on that list is somebody that I know personally, and not every name on that list is somebody that our personnel manager knows personally. And he has come up to me and he has said, look, we've got this name on the list, but I Googled them and I couldn't find any examples of their playing. Or we've got this name on the list, but I Googled them and the only thing I found is this, listen to this. And that is not how you want people experiencing your playing. I think the opportunity of having a professional website is that you can curate the image that you present to the world. If you have a professional website under your name, comma, instrument, it means that someone who is like, oh, Jennet Ingle, yeah, I've heard that name. Is she any good? Quick Google, the first thing that comes up is me looking professional with sound clips on my site that I have chosen myself to represent me rather than just some, I don't know, church gig that was live streamed from 7 years ago where like I don't even remember it. It's not something that I was uh, aware of as being part of my professional portfolio. Those things are still going to exist, right? There's always stuff on the internet if you Google yourself that will pop up here or there, but you want the easiest possible thing for someone to find to be you with an up-to-date bio, with a photograph that represents what you look like, with some video that represents what you sound like and who you are, and maybe even some like warm words or testimonials from other people. Because otherwise, what happens if they Google your name and you happen to have the same name as some like sex offender in Arkansas? You don't want that to be the first thing that pops up for people when they Google you. Even within my oboe program, I frequently hire guest clinicians. I hire oboists and other musicians whom I know to be fantastic, who I really want to pay actual money to come in and talk to my group of oboists. And I'm surprised sometimes when I Google around, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to hire this person to come in and do that because I saw them do this masterclass. I thought they were fantastic. And I Google, and all I can find is like their bio associated with their orchestra or their bio associated with a college. And sometimes there is an email address attached to that I can click, and sometimes there is not. It is not always easy to find a person on the internet and figure out how to contact them without having to go, multiple Google pages deep in a way that feels creepy. Like, I don't want to do a tremendous amount of digging to find a professional email address for you. And when I say professional email address, I mean just basically your name at gmail.com or whatever version of that works for the amount of commonness in your name. Like, this should be easy if you want to be hired for things. And because music is not simply a merit-based profession, but a network-based profession, you want people to be able to find you. Do you want to have your full home address on your website? Maybe not. But a phone number and or email? Absolutely, because you want to be hired and you want it to be easy for people to find you. At minimum, a contact form on your website, but I'd rather see an email address. A professional website for a musician does not have to be complicated. It does not have to be elaborate, and you don't have to put every single orchestra gig you have under your coming attractions, because that's going to cause you to have to update every month, every week. Like, we don't need every detail of what you're doing. But if you've got like a couple of performances you're excited about in the next year, let's get them up on your site. If you want to be hired in a capacity that you have not previously been hired for, put an extra page on your website and talk about that. If you want to be able to communicate with your students or with prospective students and preemptively answer the kinds of questions that they have so you don't have to constantly get on the phone with people, the website is a great place to do that. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be elaborate, but it is your opportunity to like fly your flag, plant your flag on one little corner of internet real estate and use it to put your best foot forward in the world. I highly recommend that musicians have a website, even though that website itself will not directly get you work. Because I would like to see what you put forward to show you at your best. I hope that this has been helpful. This has been a Happiest Musician Minisode. Let me know in the comments here what you think of this, or let me know by leaving a beautiful review for Crushing Classical on your podcast app of choice, or let me know by emailing me. Because my email is very easy to find from my actual professional website, jennetingle.com, and I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.